So I don't have anything this week, so I'll turn it over now.
Well, that was fast. Catch me a little off guard to see if I'm. Let's see, where's the share button? Oh, that should be rotated, but what you're looking at is the underside of my electronics board on my tractor. You can see the wheel there and the handle to pull up the blade, and there's the hinges for the board just to try to orient you a little bit. The motor controller for the steering motor, but this is the subject of the discussion for one of my updates. So I went out, tried to run it yesterday, um, and I should have pulled this battery in the wintertime, but I didn't. Let's see if I can zoom in on this Google thing. There's a this wire or wire harness goes to a Bluetooth unit that sits on top of the board, and in the software I had turned the quote unquote turned the battery off, so there was no output coming out of uh, these wires, and I thought I would be good, but unfortunately my suspicion is that Bluetooth unit does draw a little bit of energy. Bottom line is this battery, I had to take it off and charge it last night. So yeah, lesson learned. Either probably the right thing to do is make it so it's easier to take off, and it's not going to be used for an extended period of time. Um, pull the battery. Um, because without the control software able to fire up, even this happens to be an Anderson pole, and on the other end of that is our power supply where I was ready to charge it. Um, but it wouldn't even take a charge because it's off. So brought it home, took it apart, charged each cell individually. It's back up to 14-ish volts now that I've charged each individual cell to about whatever that is, 3.7 per cell or so. Put it all back together, ready to go back and give that a try. The other update I just wanted to talk about is this is one of the GPSs. Well, go back to got a couple GPSs to try to work out, and one of them is this 1172 RDP, but the one that I was speaking about last week was this 1172 RH. The interesting thing about this one was it would provide a heading, um, which I did get to work using 3DR radios for correction data. But then I was messing around trying to get the update rate to be, something greater than 10, which is what one of my current GPSs is, and contacted the company. They said, sorry, this RH only goes up to 8 hertz. Luckily, this is the data sheet for the RDP. It advertises going up to 40 hertz. So I swapped that out and got it to go up. I have it set at 25 hertz at the moment. And just to confirm the hertz, I fed it into my Ubuntu machine and wrote a small little Python script to count the number of inputting, count the number of sentences being received, and lo and behold, it is definitely coming in at 25 hertz. Now I didn't check, like, is it 25 of the same thing? But it's definitely putting out 25 hertz, which is good to know. The other thing that I had never spent any time on, I know Jeff has spent time on, this is a getting started guide for one of their boards. It has in the OEM software that comes with the unit, and it runs on a Windows machine, this GNS viewer software, it has an NTRIP client. And I'm like, oh, well, I've heard Jeff mention that before, and I'd never used it before. And so I started looking at a couple of things around the NTRIP stuff. And as mentioned before, there's this, come on, I'm trying to get to my screen there. There's this outfit called RTK to go that I don't know what the relationship is between SNP and RTK to go. I sort of seem like SNP is the company and RTK to go is a service, but what I discovered is in Pittsburgh, there's someone who's publishing the NTRIP data. So I'm like, well, I'll just give this a try. And I was able to use the NTRIP client in the OEM software GNS viewer without the use of my correction data coming in, and it definitely reached RTK or RTK fix. So that was cool. So that's another path of something to test. Now I don't personally understand it all, but I think I have to load some sort of NTRIP client on my Ubuntu machine in order to exploit the Ethernet access and pull this data in and inject it into the GPS, because right now all I've done is used a Windows machine and used the OEM software and used the client, but that mount point, that pit test track, the user ID of just my email address and a blank password, yeah, it worked. Got to fix. And I don't know why, but this is the SNP website, and there was nothing that's coming up on that like it had before. So I either got the wrong URL or something, but so anyway, that's a few morsels of activity on my part. Questions or comments about any of that? Or an explanation? Does RTKLIB has like 4 or 5 different components to it, and it seemed like there was an NTRIP client STR to something serve. And so I was going to go down the path of trying to figure out if RTKLIB could be used on the Ubuntu machine to grab this RTK to go data.
That
Comments
is
on?
that is one of your options. And that STR to STR, that's just a kind of a universal, it's stream to stream. So you specify an incoming stream and an outgoing stream. And of that, if you say the incoming stream is an NTRIP client, then you can fill out all the stuff and connect to something on the internet and get your correction data. Then for the output, you can say, I want to send it to a file, or I want to send it to a serial port, or whatever. It's quite flexible in what you can do with that. So that is one option. Another option is, like I was just showing a couple meetings ago, you can use a cell phone and hook up a USB cable and let that connect directly over the cell network to get you to the internet and do the whole thing. So there's a couple of different NTRIP clients you can get on that. And I had another one that was an ESP32 cam board. And the only reason I got the camera board is because I wanted to get a board that did not have USB, because the code I had was pre-compiled binary and I had no way to change it. So I just cheated and got a board that had no USB port on it, because otherwise it would run just fine, but it would put out the correction data over USB, and that's not where I wanted it. So putting on the camera board, it then puts the correction data out a UART, and I just connect that to my board. Just like a logic level serial port to my board. And there's probably a lot more options too, depending on what you're trying to do.
Hmm.
I was also thinking in Pittsburgh, they've also got maybe one of the universities puts out correction data. I didn't know if you're close enough for that to work. They say something about it's something like so many parts per million per kilometer away or something. So, but the first thing is, if it's working, that's you're light years ahead than if it's not working at all. And it could be, yes, a base station right next to it in your yard would give you a better uh, a better position. But if you don't need it real accurate, then maybe you can use this data from somebody else and just go with that.
If it were, oh, I don't know, 10 air miles away, would that be close enough?
I don't know. They throw out lots of different numbers, and somewhere it says maybe like 14 kilometers, or and depending who you look at, they'll give you different numbers on that. But as they say, it works out to a certain point, and then they say your precision drops by so many parts per million per some distance or something. So it just simply degrades off as you get further away. But the first thing to do, if it's working, if you're getting an RTK fix, then that's light years ahead of where you could have been. So
So I have a laptop running Ubuntu, and if I want it to have internet while it's running, I need to fire up my hotspot on my cell phone. So if I had those two physical devices, which path would you go down if you wanted to try to exploit RTK to go data?
I'd have to think about it, I guess. But as I say, lots of different ways will work. So, and to get the stream to stream to work under Ubuntu, you just basically I just have a command line of stuff that I put out, and I can track that down later and send you that. It's a little bit tricky because you have to get like your password. If it's got special characters, you have to put quotes here and there, and you got to do various things to get it to work. But it does indeed work. And if you
Yeah. Go.
in under RTKLIB, they've got the stuff for Windows, so you can load it up under Windows. And there they give you a menuing system where you just fill in all the stuff. And then under uh, the Ubuntu stuff, then basically I was ran a command line. I don't know if you can get you might be able to either get it with a menuing system or compile it from menuing system, but I can never get that stuff to work. So I just have this command line that I run. So it's just this big long command line, with 20 different fields in it. And as long as you get the right stuff put in there and fire it up, then it does indeed work.
It was just an interesting test. I don't, at the moment, here in Pittsburgh, I still have my base station, and I'll probably stick with that for the time being. But it was interesting to test it and see if it would work, and definitely, definitely did work. I don't know why I don't know if their website is my browser issue or something, but not seeming to be able to get the, maybe I'm not on the right site.
And Massachusetts just put out a message a couple days ago saying, "Oh, by the way, we're going to be down for 8 days because they're upgrading something." But you know, if this is not like an actual company or government entity putting this out, so it's you might also be at the whim of whether the stuff's going to work or not. So
Yeah, it was use our monitoring So now that went to the right place. Oh, wait a second. No, I don't see. Those are hot. Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on. The other thing I sort of stumbled across was this ESP RTK, but that was a less than simple to me to figure out. I could sort of figure out the wiring diagrams. I've clipped in multiple components here, but I guess this was more, well, not quite sure why this would be better than just having my own base station, but maybe it was so I could publish this data to other people if need be. So that's why I went over to RTK to go. That's what's going on here. Disappointed that the board with heading would only go to 8 hertz, but the other board without heading, same chip, will go to 40. So that's pretty crazy. See if that has an impact on being able to drive faster and still go straight without a bunch of weaving.
How many different boards do you have now that you got from these people?
Um, 4, I think, is the answer to your question. I ended up getting this one, which is like crazy simple. This one, which was heading, had dual antennas and could give you heading, but now it's only going to 8 hertz. This one,
Do you have the data sheet for that one you just showed, the RH one? Or just that little brag sheet right there?
yes,
Because
it's a little bit.
I was thinking one of them, I thought it was this one. It said RTK at 10 hertz and heading at 8 hertz or something like that.
It's just a little
Which
bit easier to open it up here. So when I wrote the company, they pointed back and they said, that's the line you want to be looking at.
and I've noticed they've got like 100 different boards you can buy, and it's hard to figure out which one you actually need. And
Exactly.
because
Yeah.
I say one of them said 10 hertz RTK and 8 hertz heading, but that's not what this is saying. This is saying apparently for both of them it gives you that. And I was running my stuff at 5 hertz just simply because it was working at that. One time I tried speeding it up, and I didn't like the results, so I just went back to 5 hertz and never played with mine anymore. So, and any number will work. It's just that, as you say, the faster the update rate, it might make your navigation work better.
Yeah, and that's just a hypothesis, right? I certainly haven't proven that, but it's It's hope at this stage, just an educated guess.
Also, as far as, yeah, picking your update rates, I would think that software you're running is smart enough. If it's connected to the board and you say, set my update rate, it probably gives you a list of ones. So it probably knows based on which board you got, what your options are to get that, what you can set that at.
Yes, because this one I tried to set it at 10 just to test it, and it came back at 5. It's curious it didn't come back at 8, but anyway. But then this board I set it at 25, and it took it, and then I verified that connecting it to the Ubuntu machine. So anyway, more to learn on that. I didn't check to see what the update rate was on uh, this sort of. This is one that I thought could be a base station. Um, as opposed to a rover, but it's all over the place here. Update rate. I don't know what the differences is between raw measurement and moving base RTK. Looks like it might top out at, well, I don't know. It's definitely one that have to be tested. But this board is like half the size of a credit card. I mean, it's just tiny. Well, that's what's going on here.
So that was three of your boards. What's the other one? The original one you're trying to use for the base station that was actually the L1, L5. Is that the fourth board that you've got?
Yeah, let me get back to this one, which is the cheapest. This is the one that has the Wi-Fi chip on it as well as the GPS. I was just looking in the to see if it had any speed reference. Here it's similar to the one of the previous ones where it's got RTK at 10, raw measurement at 20, and it's moving base at 8. What's interesting about, well, there's a number of things interesting about this one, but this particular one, the RDP, let's see if I can get it takes wheel tick data, meaning this graphic here is trying to show that they drove through a parking garage where they lost fix, and it still knew where they were. And way that it does that is it takes wheel tick input, but I don't completely understand their, I'll call it the protocol. Let me show you what some of the words.
Well, the main reason it can keep track of where it is because it has a IMU built into it, and then the wheel ticks are just something extra you can put in to help improve on that. And when I was briefly looking through their website, it sounded like this. I think right at the top it said something about it's a sub-meter accuracy. So I didn't know if you could run. You may not be able to run RTK and the IMU at the same time. Yeah, might have to pick one mode or the other. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Supply. I was looking for how it described the wheel tick input. It was connect odometer to the wheel tick signal through appropriate level shifter. So it's a 3.3 volt signal.
Right, go up about 3 lines there. It says odometer less dead reckoning. So that's if you didn't want to hook up your wheel ticks, you could apparently use that mode. I assume it probably still uses the IMU if you do that. But I don't know. That's the first time I've seen this particular reference right here you're showing. So
Yeah, I mean, do you get this out of I'm trying to figure out, do you get this out of the box or do you have to turn on this odometerless dead reckoning?
I don't know. If you put up that configuration software, it might have other menus that are specifically for this, so that might give you a better idea of what you can do and what you can't do, and it'll probably tell you what it's configured for. Right out of the box, it'll tell you what it's configured for, and then you can go look at the commands you got to change it.
Oh, anyway, another rabbit hole to go down.
So back to your other one that does the heading. Did you look at that any harder to see what the message coming out looks like, and have you verified that looks correct?
I did. I mean, it was limited because it was stationary and just on my back porch and me moving around. They call it a PSTI 036 statement. Let me see if I can find the format. There's nothing, necessarily exotic about it. But you go into, I'm talking and clicking at the same time. You go into the OEM software and say, give me that 036 statement. And so when I was testing it, I had reduced all of the messages down to just the RMC statement and this 036 statement. The So their nomenclature is they have this PSTI, which stands for, their statement. And so you get this 036 heading, pitch, and roll message. The heading is, I'll call it a compass reading, also pitch and roll. And so there's not a lot, it's not like 20 data elements. It's a very simple message. But testing it on the back porch, I mean, it was a little bit, I couldn't, because I was having to go outside and move the antenna and then come in and look at what it was actually saying. I couldn't really see what the refresh rate was. But I mean, it knew where north was, it knew where south was. And that's it.
One of the things that occurred to me was once you go to put these antennas on your lawn tractor, I would say, stick one on the back, stick one on the front. And then when you get it running, it's going to say, this is your heading. And if it's off a little bit, I think you can just simply subtract, whatever it takes to make that zero. So if you point your lawn tractor north, which is going to be zero or at 359.999, whatever it is. If that's off by say 3 degrees, just simply subtract 3 degrees off that. I think it'll give you what you want. So I don't think you have to physically, go out and mechanically figure out how to zero that out exactly. I think it just simply says, here's the heading, and if it's not what you want, just subtract off whatever the error is, and just go with that. At least to start with, that'd be a quick way to do that.
That's cool. I gotta go print off my startup sequence because I got out to my lawn tractor yesterday. I'm like, I don't remember crap. What's yeah, I got the laptop connected, but now what? So
Yeah, I usually dump out my history file to see what, and then try to figure out what the commands were that I was supposed to be using to do this, because I never write in this junk down, so it always takes me a while to get my stuff started up again.
but we'll see if the battery holds charge now and fires it up. Well, what's critical is that daggone Bluetooth module fires up and gives me control of the battery again. I was just looking at the model number of the battery, or the BMS on the battery, actually. I'm sorry, you were going to say something?
I was going to ask if it had anything else.
No, I'm all set.